Hello and welcome to Console Cowboys. So first off, if you want to follow me, you can do that on the Twitter link in the description below and share out these videos if you learn anything. So in the last video, we took a look at how to do some basic scripting in Brownie to automate some of the things that we were doing manually in Python. Now let's take a look at hopping into the Brownie console where we can do a lot more things. It's pretty powerful. And then I'll show you some really cool stuff in the next video after this on forking mainnet and being able to just beat up on contracts. For this one, we're going to get all the console basics down. So let's hop right into it and get rolling. The first thing I want to note before we hop into the console is that if you wanted to do stuff, for example, switch out these values to Ether with like from way, to way, all of those things, always remember you can do, the import of Web3 up here, and then you can access all of that stuff. Now, with that said, let's hop into the Brownie console. I'm going to make this a little bigger and let's get rolling. So we're going to say Brownie console, and this is going to drop us right into a console. Once this is launched, you can think of this like the Python, interactive console. We can do a lot of the same things. For example, we could type dir, and that'll give us a list of things that we have access to. What we care about here is this Hello World Bank that we're going to interact with, as well as it imports Web3, so we can use the Web3 functionality to decode things or to change it from way to Ether, etc. We can take a look at accounts and all kinds of different things in here. So let's first take a look at accounts. We know what these are. And that'll give us a list of all the accounts because Ganache launched when we launched this, and it has all the accounts for that. So we can check the balance as we know. So accounts, and just specify 0 here as the first one. And then we say dot, and that'll actually give us this where we can just tab through it and grab what we want. So we can grab balance. And this actually needs the parentheses after there, so we can call it like a function. And you'll see we have that 100 Ether in there in way. So you could just do a from way if you wanted with Web3 to get a look at that in Ether if you really wanted to. So let's also show you some stuff here with transferring, because we could take a look at some data. So if I was to paste this in here, we can do a transfer from account 0 to accounts 1 of 1 Ether and set it to a variable and take a look at that data. So let's do that. So if we run that, it ran a transaction. And if we check the balance again here, you'll see that we have 99 instead of 100 now. And if we look at the transaction, say tx dot, and again, it's going to give us stuff that we can type out here. We're going to just do info, and we're going to have to do those parentheses there, and that'll give us information about that transaction. So we got that tx hash, we have the from, we have the to, we have the value, block number, and the gas used. So this is just something, as we're testing around, we can use this console to test a lot of things before we do them in our scripts and get a little bit more detailed information that we don't want to print out in our scripts probably, or that we maybe want to parse out in our scripts, but then we want to take a look at what it looks like first and play around and figure out how to parse it. So we can do that. Now we can also right from here deploy our contract, right? So let's do that. I'm going to grab this and paste it in here, and we're going to deploy our contract directly from the console instead of our script, and then we can interact with it. I'll show you how to do that. All right, so that is deployed now, and now we can interact with it. Much like our script, let's just print out the balance of the first account on the smart contract, not from Ganache. And that should give us back 0 because we haven't deposited anything yet, right? So account 0 is 0, but let's deposit our 1 Ether now, just to show you that this works exactly like in our script, and then we'll move on to some other stuff here. So let's paste this in here. We're gonna do a bank deposit from account 0, and we're gonna do that value of 1 Ether. And then if we scroll up here, we can print that out again, and we should get account 0 has 1 Ether in it. Perfect. So what else can we do? Well, we can also use dir on that bank contract and take a look at that. So we say bank, and we'll print that out. And what we see here is we see all of our variables. We see all of our functions. We can also look at the ABI. We can look at the bytecode, etc. So let's take a look at a few things in here. Let's say bank.owner, and we'll see who the owner of the contract is that can run administrative functionality. And that would be that one. So if we say accounts again, you'll notice that that is the first account here, ends in the 71, starts in the 66, and that is what we deployed it with. That is the owner of this contract. If we were figuring out who can make those particular admin functionality, maybe we're doing a little tx.origin phishing of that particular address. We need to know what that is so we can target that particular person. Now we can also take a look at the particulars of the contract. So say bank.byte code, and I can also hit tab to complete that. Oh, don't need the parentheses on that one. So that prints out the byte code. If you wanted to see that, you can also do that with the API. Okay, so that's all pretty cool. Now let's take a look at grabbing something else in the smart contract and using Web3 with it, and then automating that a little bit. So if we look at our bank, you'll remember that there was a storage private variable that we can't see the value of, right? So we have this string private message. So we can get a hold of that with the get storage at using Web3 to call that directly, and we should get back hello. But if we had changed this, with the function here, where is it? Change message, then we wouldn't know what that message is anymore and might want to get a hold of the value. It's private, so we can do that get storage at. And we know how to do that because we did it in the last section. So let's do that right in here just to show that you can, use Web3 calls directly from in here as well. So we're going to need to do a bank address in here. So we do a web3.eth.getStorageAt, you know that. And then we have to put the bank address. And that one right there is just the first slot in memory, or rather the second slot in memory, because 0, 1, and then we decode it. Now to get the address of the contract, we can simply do a casting of a string on that bank variable, and we should get back the bank address, and then we can print out that first storage. So let's do that. So we get the hello back, so that works perfectly. Now let's say, there was a whole bunch of memory, or we just wanted to see everything that was in memory. How would we go about doing that? Well, we're right in the interactive console. We can just make a for loop, right? So let's say for I in range, and we'll just do the first 10. And I'll tab that in here, and we're gonna grab this and paste it, but we're going to change out the 1 and put the I there so it enumerates 1 through 10. And that will grab all the data for us. Now, this will likely fail on us because it's going to try to decode things that we can't necessarily decode, but let's try it anyway, just so you see that error and you know what's going on. So, yep, we did. We got a codec can't decode byte at 0xAB position invalid start byte. So how do we handle that? Well, we can just grab it without decoding and then decode what we want later, right? We don't have to code everything as we're grabbing it. Just grab the data, parse it, decode it later if we want to. So let's do that. So we'll go for in range again, tab that in here, and let's take off this decode. I'm gonna run this. And we get some stuff printed out here. So what do we got? We have in the first slot of memory, we see XABM and we see some data. And then we see a hello padded out with zeros. And then we have just nothing after that, just 0 bytes. So perfect, that's how we do that. Now we can also check out some other stuff. For example, we could check out what network we're using, which should be just the local Ganache network in here, or in this case, I guess it's the Brownie.network. Now we have a lot of networks, so I'm going to hop out of this now and we'll take a look at the other networks here. So we can do that pretty easily. I believe it's a Brownie networks list. And this will list out all the networks that we can use. I'm going to scroll this up here so we can take a look. So we have our Ethereum mainnet for Infura, ROPC, and RINKB, although ROPC and RINKB, they don't really exist anymore. So we'd be using something like Gorelli. But you can see all these different mainnets that you can have access to and all the different test nets, etc. And then we have our development networks. And this is where we're going to go in the next video. So we have something called a mainnet fork. Now this mainnet fork is going to allow us to fork the mainnet and then do testing and beat up on things as if, it was the mainnet, but we can do it local. So let's cut off this video right here and we'll take a look at that in the next video and really dive in and play around with a couple things on there just to give you an idea of ways that you can, leverage that for your penetration testing without the repercussions of, hacking and going to jail or something of that nature, or using real Ethereum. So hopefully you guys learned something. If you did, hit the like, subscribe, share this out to everybody, and I hope you're enjoying yourself.